The big, beautiful bill. There's a lot to get into, so I'm just going to let this dude from the Wall Street Journal give you a little bit of an idea.
Considering President Trump's one big beautiful bill, the legislation passed a key procedural hurdle late on Saturday night.
The yeas are 51, the nays are 49. The motion is agreed to.
It's a 940-page piece of tax and spending legislation that came out Friday, and now they're trying to go through this process of making some final changes, some final amendments. As the Senate Republicans are trying to figure this out, they're dealing with the splits in their own group over things like Medicaid, clean energy tax credits, deficits, and in some cases on taxes. This bill helps business owners. This bill helps taxpayers broadly. About 2% of taxpayers would get a tax increase if the tax cuts expire. So this extends those and adds some new tax cuts on top of it. If you really care a lot about border security and national defense, there's lots of money here that they're funding.
The goals in this bill are a safer America, a stronger America, and a more prosperous America.
In terms of who gets hurt, people who are on Medicaid, there's new Medicaid work requirements. There's going to be limits on some funding. There's people who are concerned about rural hospitals and their funding, nutrition assistance programs, what we call SNAP, that also has some cuts in here. And then obviously clean energy as well. Like if you're in the wind and solar energy industry or manufacturing components or those kinds of things, those industries are really taking a hit from this legislation. When the bill is at this slim a majority, everybody is a key vote. You've got moderates like Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins who are concerned about the bill. You've got two Republicans, Rand Paul and Tom Tillis, who are opposed to the bill.
That is an admission that they know they aren't controlling the deficit. They know that the ensuing years will add trillions more. That doesn't sound at all conservative to me, and that's why I'm a no.
You've got conservative Republicans, Ron Johnson, Rick Scott, and Mike Lee, who are want deeper spending cuts. So they're trying to find the right mix of policies that can get 50 votes out of the 53 Republicans. You get Vice President Vance to come break the tie, and then it will pass. And so finding that balance has really taken them a while to do. The bill has not actually been passed at this point. So this procedural vote was basically the question of, should the Senate debate this bill? Once they debate the bill, then the Senate will consider amendments. This is a chance for Democrats who oppose this bill to put Republicans on record on a lot of the provisions of the legislation in particular.
If Republicans proceed and follow Donald Trump over the cliff, with this bill tied to their ankles like an anvil, they will not only doom their own communities, they will doom their political fortunes.
And it's a chance for Republicans, if there are blocks of Republicans who want to change things in the bill, this is their chance to do it. And then obviously this has to go back to the House, and there's no guarantee that the House just accepts this as is.
We're in a wait-and-see posture in the House right here, and we'll see what happens. So we're ready to act.
This bill absolutely can meet the deadline of July 4th. The Senate can finish it by sometime on Monday. The House members who've gone home for the weekend can come back and vote for it. There's plenty of time legislatively to do it. The question is whether there are votes. The important thing about the July 4th deadline is that it is not real in any sense. There's no, the tax cuts expire December 31st. The other thing this bill has is a $5 trillion increase in the debt limit. The U.S. doesn't really run out of capacity for borrowing until sometime in August. So there definitely is that time if they choose to use it.
Okay, so that's the best I could find as far as trying to make this thing make sense now. I know we talked last week about the land grab. Here's some good news here. So over the weekend, Mike Lee said over the past several weeks, listening to members, blah, blah, blah. Because of the strict constraints of the budget reconciliation process, he was unable to secure clear enforceable safeguards to guarantee that the lands would be made solely only to American families, not to China, BlackRock. So he pulled it. So conservatives absolutely won a decisive victory, and liberals too. It was weird bedfellows, everybody teaming up to try and get that that whole thing just got absolutely blasted out of the water on that. So that was a victory. It's great. I'm very happy about that. Awesome. And so the big beautiful bill is nothing more than another omnibus bill. It's a trash bill. There was some hope for conservatives that we were going to possibly get this miracle or this unicorn thing where we were going to get the Hearing Protection Act and the Short Act through both the House and the Senate, and they were going to kind of sneak it into the bill. The Hearing Protection Act would have taken suppressors off the NFA. You would have still had to do a 4473, but that's it. You wouldn't have to register it. And the same thing with SBR, short-barreled rifles. Unfortunately.
Link down below, however, are the content creators that can actually give you play-by-play, minute-by-minute updates of what's going on. Okay, the reconciliation process, H.R. 1, starts in the House. The Hearing Protection Act, Sections 1 and 2, are added to it and makes it out of the House, which would have actually, at that point, zeroed the tax out, would not have removed it from the NFA, but zeroed the tax out on suppressors. Gets to the Senate. Once it gets to the Senate, however, the Senate adds not only Section 3 of the Hearing Protection Act, which was going to be huge if you lived in states that required registration of a suppressor in order to own it lawfully, but they also added the Short Act to it. So now all of a sudden you guys are all getting teased that you might get suppressors and short barrel rifles removed from the purview of the NFA. Okay, so all we have to do is get through what? That's right, the Byrd Rule. The Byrd Rule is just this parliamentary procedure in which we make sure that since we're talking about reconciliation, we are only talking about revenue or expenditures, which was why the Democrats continuously calling these regulations a tax was huge, because theoretically and presumably and logically, they had painted themselves into a corner. And how on God's green earth could the parliamentarian actually strike that from the bill, because we're clearly talking about a source of government revenue? Well, enter Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, who, by the way, was appointed by Democratic Senator Harry Reid way back in 2012. And by the way, her Wikipedia page is very complimentary of her handling of President Trump's 2 separate impeachments. Now, can she, in fact, be fired? Yeah, she can be. She can be. Is it a bit of a nuclear option? Yes, it is. But has it been done before? Yes, it has. Go all the way back to 2001, when the parliamentarian Robert Dove was fired by then-ranking Senator Trent Lott. But hey, the Democrats have all called it a tax. It is a tax stamp. It was originally enforced by the IRS, so one would seem that it's pretty well within the Act of Reconciliation. But then, as a shock to no one, the parliamentarian then strips all of the great things that had been done in the Senate, which would have included complete NFA deregulation of suppressors and short barrel rifles. They still would have been governed under 4473s, but you would have not had to go through Form 1s or Form 4s, the enhanced background checks, and of course would have avoided the $200 tax stamp, and most importantly, would not have to have these items registered with the federal government.
That's the thing. That's the big deal. Now he goes on and on. He got stripped by the parliamentarians, shoved back over to the House. Or no, what was reimposed was instead of a $200 tax, they dropped it to $0. And GOA and FPC and the NRA and all the influencers that were, this is a win, guys. I know it's not what we wanted, but it's a win. You don't have to pay the money. And every gun owner in unison responded back, it's not about the money, you dingbat. It's about the fact that there's a registry for suppressors, that there is a registry for SBRs. There should not be a registry for this. I don't care if it's a $500 tax. Fine. I'll pay the $500 tax. Just take it off the stupid registry. Regularize, new word, SBRs and suppressors. Get rid of them. But no, because Republicans are feckless. Republicans are losers. They said, oh, no, don't worry, guys. It's a good first step. You mean like when the Democrats come in and they pass their omnibus bill in 4 years, they're not going to take it from a 0% tax to a $500 tax to a $1,000 tax to a $5,000 tax because you just got rid of it and didn't get rid of anything else. You got rid of the tax. Guess what? The Democrats can come back and put, instead of it being 200, now it's 1,000. And this is the thing about the Republicans. They're just a bunch of friggin' losers. They're just a bunch of losers. They don't care. We talked about this in the warm-up. They don't want you armed. They're going to do everything they can to make sure you're not armed. And gun owners who Trump always goes to the NRA. Oh, they love me. I love the Second Amendment, blah, blah, blah. Lip service, blah, blah, blah. Nothing. Because now the Republicans have the House and the Senate and the presidency, and they can't do this because they're scared because of a stupid parliamentarian, which, by the way, they can overrule, which I think he'll say.
Moving forward. But now that the parliamentarian has struck these provisions from House Resolution 1, the Reconciliation Act, what are the options? Well, option number one is that they can just fire the
By the way, the Republicans will do 0.0.0 on any of this.
Parliamentarian. Is that an option? Is that there? Yes, it is. She can be fired. She can be replaced. Now, most of the people inside the Beltway who seem to have kind of an understanding what's going on and who the players are do not believe that there is a high probability at all that that will occur, that the parliamentarian will be fired. It comes as a shock to me that when power changes in the United States Senate, that the first order of business, it would appear to me, would be to change the parliamentarian. I mean, to the winner goes the spoils. And so the fact that this parliamentarian has now been the parliamentarian for 13 years is kind of odd when you think about especially the partisan nature of what goes on in Washington, D.C. Can the parliamentarian be overridden? Yes, it can. But a lot of people think that it can only be overridden by a majority vote of the Senate. Au contraire, it actually works differently. It's done through a point of order, and then the only two individuals that can actually override the parliamentarian would be the vice president, who
which he won't do because he wants to be number 48 and he doesn't want that on his record. No matter what, he can pose with guns like he did. Oh, look at me, like AR. They all pose with guns. And then when they get in there, they forget about him.
To be the president of the Senate, that's J.D. Vance, and Senate President pro tempore Chuck Grassley. Has that occurred? Obviously, that has not occurred. And that is the option right now that I understand that.
And it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen because Republicans are feckless. They do, any little pushback and they fold. And they absolutely fold like a cheap suit as soon as those things happen. As soon as they try to sneak it in, it gets struck by an unelected Democrat, and then went, oh, well, we tried, guys. I'm sorry, we tried. And then they just move on. And don't expect JD. Everybody was tweeting at JD Vance, now's your moment. Yeah, JD Vance don't care about you. JD Thiel, as Steve Cunningham likes to call him, doesn't care about you. He is trying to set himself up to be POTUS 48. And if that means he's got to backstab every single, he'll come crawling back in 2028. Oh, well, guys, there was a parliamentary procedure and they haven't fired. He'll come up with some slick answer. And then your big gun influencers will be like, no, we need JD in there, guys. We need JD in there because what's the difference right now between a Democrat and a Republican controlled Congress for gun owners? Nothing. 0.0. Not a thing. You're getting nothing out of them. So, yeah, watching that whole thing go down through the week just was absolutely ridiculous to watch. As the parliamentarian just went roughshod over the entire bill, and they just sat back and went, "Okay, I'm sorry. We'll get it down, guys. You don't have to pay any kind of tax on it. You still have to register it." That's a loss, man. No, I'm not. I don't want to register a suppressor. I shouldn't have to register. So the Europeans don't register. The Europeans hand out suppressors like they're Guinness. It's the one rule that the anti-gun lobby hates about the Europeans. The Europeans are all about suppressors because they understand you don't want to blow out your hearing. It's literally, suppressors are a safety tool for people's hearings. But because everybody in Congress watched too many Bond movies, they think you can run around and they sound like mosquito farts. Peep, 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 peep. No, it doesn't sound like that. You ever been next to a gun when it goes off with a suppressor? It ain't like that. The only time it ever gets close to that is if you have a suppressed 22 with subsonic ammo. Maybe it's close. Maybe. But a suppressed 9? No. A suppressed AR, a suppressed shotgun? None of those things. None of them. Right? I call out conservatives and liberals anywhere, anytime, any topic. because none of this nonsense matters to me. I am not MAGA. I am Catholic. So forget that. Forget them. They've failed you. They're gonna jack. Oh, by the way, everybody knows about remittance, right? Remittance. It's when foreigners come here and they send money back overseas. We were gonna try. The idea was that the Congress was gonna up the remittance, so that way it would be harder for people to send money back. You know what? It went from 3.5% to 1% in this bill. It went from 3.5% to 1%. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. They dropped the remittance. They dropped it. They made it easier. So it's disgusting to watch quote unquote conservatives. So check this out. U.S. slashes remittance tax for NRIs from 3.5 to 1. Non-resident Indians. Oh, you're very good now. We don't have to pay more than 1% on the remittance. We can send all our money back. You up the remittance and that keeps immigration down. No, your conservatives gave these people more incentive to come here because apparently they're the greatest. They can't keep their own damn country clean, by the way. Sorry, but if you ever looked at India, it is not an enchanted wonderland. It is a filthy third world country. Filthy. With a caste system that you don't even want to think about. So the fact of the matter is, it's gross and it's stupid. And it just makes me angry. And that's why there's this big beautiful bill. It's riddled with garbage like this. It's riddled with garbage like this throughout the entire thing. Remittance goes down for, non-resident Indians. So you can come on over, take advantage of the system, and send the money back with no penalty. In fact, it'd be cheaper for you. Gun owners, get out of here. Whatever. Oh, I think they even stripped the Planned Parenthood. Right? Let's see that. You really want to get mad? Because they were touting this out there. Let's see. What's the latest on that? Let's see here. Oh no, I guess they did vote the pro-abortion amendment. Oh, all right. Interesting. So I thought that was I guess it changed. I guess it changed from when I first read it. Rejects the pro-abortion amendment by 49-51 that would have funded it. Okay, fine. Give them a win on that one. I'll shut up on that. But there's a lot of other stuff. Right? There's the fact that the spending goes out of control. There's all these other kinds of things. Oh, you don't need sorry, but India is a gross place. It is not safe for women. It is not a good place. I'm sorry. I really am. And my wife went when she was at TCU, there was a couple of Indians that were at the school with her. And you know what? I'll tell you this much. They were actually pretty decent. And you know why they were pretty decent people? Because they were Catholics. They were upstanding, awesome people to be involved with because they were all Catholics, which is why Catholicism built Western society. And outside of that, man, it is a gross, disgusting country. And the fact that we enable it for cheap labor is just so stupid.